What is up, mother people? Now, is this true? Do Asian women only want white guys? Or do they prefer white guys more than Asian guys? Let's investigate. Let's go this whole thought process together and see if this is the truth. Okay, so I follow this page called Asians with Attitudes. Shout outs, you guys are awesome. They posted this poll because apparently from a lot of their followers, there's a handful of guys out there that believe that Asian girls just do not want to date Asian guys, or they rag on them or whatever. And to settle the score once and for all, okay, apparently about like over 8,000 people responded. And you can see this right here. The Asian lady says 71 prefer Asian men, okay? And Asian men, 54% it prefers Asian women, okay? Which is pretty interesting because if the guy's arguments are Asian women don't prefer Asian men, this shows more that Asian men don't prefer Asian women. That's interesting, right? But it is biased too, because the type of folks that follow Asians with attitude, they're probably in an Asian circle or they're interested in these type of topics. Maybe if you ask, Asian girls or guys that are more into like Black culture, Latino culture, and they're following those pages, they might have a totally different, preference, obviously. But the highlight of this was one of their followers. This is what she said.
Here's my issue with that. It's not about the fact that Asian men are open to non-Asian women. We're completely fine with that. We support y'all. Okay, it's y'all time to shine. My issue with this is that when you guys are in the comments, whether it be Asians with Attitudes or any other Asian pages, you guys insist we prefer white boys and you bash us. No need to do that. Wow. Just keep it 100. Y'all got our support. Okay? Now the proof is in the pudding that we've always preferred you guys. So stop spreading lies and stop spreading bullshit.
It's 2023 and we still got this race gatekeeping where Asians must date Asians, and like, what the hell are we? Are we 1920s KKK? Like, I guess this is something that's significant enough to where they had to bring this up. She had to make a video. And for me, I'm in a completely different world where a lot of my friends are in interracial marriages. They have interracial children. And, I have a very diverse group of friends. But I have to say, I understand what it's like growing up in an Asian bubble. I also understand, like, having assumptions about outside of the Asian circle. So let's really get into this. First off, I know most of you guys in my audience are men. I want you guys to leave in the comments below your thoughts about this whole topic. Also, if you're single, if you're in a relationship, if you're in a relationship with interracially dating or whatever's, if you're dating your own kind, whatever it is, please let me know, because I want to know the perspectives and your lifestyles and stuff like that, because it's all going to be different. First and foremost, I believe in every single ethnic group, right? In every single community, there's going to be a handful of guys that just have a hard time dating. They don't have, good luck in relationships. They just don't have good social skills. And I do think a lot of this bitterness is formed from that particular group. But I don't think all of these comments are coming from incels. I do think that sometimes Asian guys are just living and doing nothing, and all of a sudden they'll see a video of some Asian girl talking shit about Asian men, and they're blindsided, and they're like, what the fuck? What did I do to deserve this attack? Like, I didn't do anything. And for me, I don't like to just write everyone's opinions off like they're just stupid. I like to go in and figure out why people think a certain way. It's really interesting to me because then you'll see where their motives come from. But overall, I think what I feel bad for the most are the guys out there who have a really hard time dating. They're lonely, they're bitter, they're sad. And it's easy to kick someone when they're down because they're probably just angry, mean peoples. But at the end of the day, if you don't figure out why people are this way, this is why people, become hardcore criminals or hardcore school shooters. Like, they just feel like they have no more options and whatever, right? And not saying that, like, all these guys are gonna be school shooters, but there's definitely a lot of bitterness that comes with all this, right? And let me tell you guys, if you are lonely and sad and you're just angry at the world because you're not dating and you just don't understand why, everyone that's been in a relationship knows. First off, it's hard to even find someone that you can match with, let alone like, can you maintain this relationship? Because there's a reason why over 50% of marriages end up in divorce. There's a reason why. No one goes into a marriage thinking like, we're gonna get into a divorce. Everyone thinks, oh, we're in love, this is the one, everyone else is gonna fuck up, but not us, right? And then it crumbles. So like, you're at this stage where you have an imagination of why people date. Oh, they date because, they fetishize or whatever. That's just the surface. When you really get into it, like, man, there's so many things that you uncover, layers and layers of things where you're just like, oh shit, this is hard stuff. So why would we want to prevent people from even partnering up? Or why do we judge people from even partnering up? It's hard alone to find someone that will care and love you and you can be vulnerable with. That stuff is hard. And once you even get to that stage, it's even harder to keep it. And I know that in most cases, the people that have this bitter perspective are not in loving situations with loving examples and in a good relationship, because it's clear to me, like everyone that's in a good situation, you're going to be a champion for love. You're going to be a champion for these things. Like, I'm in a successful interracial relationship, right? So I'm going to be a champion for that idea because I'm like, it's working great for me. You guys should try it out. So anyways, I hope we can shed some light here and possibly change some perspectives. But before you hear my thoughts on that, let's see what the comments are saying. So first off, I want to look further into why Asian girls feel this way, because for me, I was just like, what? Where does this even come from? So this sister says, personally, race doesn't matter to me, but I do hate the fact that I, as an Asian woman, am belittled for being with a non-Asian. But when an Asian man gets with a non-Asian, he's doing a good job. I've experienced this myself. Like, when I first came public with my first interracial relationship, I was getting props on the mere fact that she was white. And previously, I was in a public figure relationship with an Asian girl and no one gave me props on that. And I thought that was such a weird thing, to give someone props that they're dating outside or they got a white girl or whatever it is. I just didn't get it. Like, I've been called things like white worshiper, white man's whore, colonizer lover, and so much more, simply because I happen to fall in love with someone that happens to be white. My Asian male counterpart, though, would be praised for getting with a white woman, though. I don't like the double standard that exists in our community simply because of who we choose to love and be with. Poor girl. So this has been going on in our community and a lot of other communities for like ever, right? Like I said, it's coming from a group of folks who are not successful in relationships, and they're bitter, they're angry, they're trying to figure out reasons why, and they blame the person for not loving them. So this dude responds, you only see that on social media, while in real life, Asian women are the ones sabotaging Asian men, calling them controlling, mama's boy, toxic, unattractive, and making comments about Asian men's genitals, while telling their friends or other races of women to stay away from Asian men. Asian aunts and moms also encourage their daughters to find white husbands while throwing tantrums if their son brought a white non-Asian girl home. Now, although he has a negative perspective, I've heard this before, and I've heard it from people that say, yeah, for example, right? I've been in a couple interracial relationships, and they have examples of having Asian girlfriends saying that they won't date Asian guys. And not only would they not date Asian guys, they had a lot of negative things to say about them. Because I've heard people have preferences, right? They'll be like, yeah, I don't really prefer this, but then they don't go as far as yeah, I hate them because they're like this, and then I'm just like, whoa. Now that's just internalized racism. And it does exist. So the guys that are angry about this, like I said, not all of them are just bitter incels. Some of them are just like, dude, I love Asian girls and I'm and I'm in a happy relationship, but I just don't understand why there's so much internalized racism and I feel attacked. What the hell is happening here? Another guy goes, so it's more common to see an Asian woman with a white male compared to an Asian man dating a white woman, which is why Asian male gets praised for dating a white woman. If I got paid for every Asian woman I see dating a white male, boy, I'd be one rich motherfucker. I think statistically he's correct, but it also depends on where you go, because right now in this city of Honolulu, I see a lot of mixed relationships. So the state of Hawaii has the highest like interracial relationship, mixed peoples, ethnic cultures. A lot of people out here are like 4 different ethnicities. They got a little bit of white, a little bit of Hawaii, a little bit of Chinese, whatever, right? So I do think the future of the West Coast is gonna be this way as time progresses. There are a lot of Asian female, white male relationships more than the other way around. And it could be like a historical thing too, like in the past, like when interracial marriage was illegal in the US, it was just difficult, right? Especially for a minority man with a white woman. And then she responds, who cares if it's more common? They can get praise, but that doesn't mean Asian women should be brought down because of it. At the end of the day, it's just people getting with people who they love regardless of what they look like. I wholeheartedly agree. And I think she's really fair and sensible. It's like, okay, it's common, but like, who cares, right? And she's not even against the fact of high-fiving an Asian dude because he's in an interracial relationship or whatever. Because I think she's a firm believer of love. I personally belong in that camp. It's harder to have love and to find someone you can be vulnerable with, and everyone desires to be in a comfortable, loving relationship. So we need more of that. And also, the more loving relationships that are out there, the better it is for society. This is funny. Okay. Damn, Asian dudes still crying when an Asian girl is with a non-Asian guy. Exactly. I mean, it's still happening. It's still happening. Quit your white knighting. Most Asian guys don't say anything when that happens. Besides, if I was an Asian male, I know I wouldn't let the world emasculate me and allow Asian females to make Asian males look weak. He looks like he's related to me. I could never date an Asian American. They are so small. Asian women continue to banish and wanting to become white. Wow, those are some bold accusations. I don't know. Facts, Asian men can get any girl, any race. The ones that complain are involuntary celibates, right? I feel like a lot of people think that. I trust the marriage stats of Asian women marriage. 44% marry outside of the Asian race. There are only 3.9% of the US population. That is a staggering amount of outside marriage. This poll is not as accurate as the marriage statistics. 100%, that's true. But let's look at this another way, okay? So 3.9 population, let's round it up to 4, okay? So like, let's say out of 100 people, we got 4 Asians. So there's 96 other, got it? So let's say out of the 4 Asians, it's split right down the middle. We got 2 Asian girls and 2 Asian guys. So you have 96 guys and girls competing, okay? And if those 2 Asian boys don't shoot their shot, let's say we got like at least 40 to 50 guys that find one of those Asian girls attractive, right? So we got if one Asian guy shoots his shot, 50% of the population, one Asian guy shoots his shot, he's competing against like at least 30 guys that shoot their shot. Who do you think the girl's gonna pick? At that point, if a Jason Momoa hits her up, she's gonna choose him. I would choose him. I would gladly choose him. She has no obligation to stick to her race. You know what I mean? Like if you were a girl and you had the cream of the crop, you were able to choose like the top-notch A+ versions of dudes that are like tall, handsome, rich, whatever. Wouldn't you rather go for them? I'm not saying that this doesn't exist in the Asian community, but I'm just saying that statistically, right? Just in general, like with how many humans there are, if there's 96 other, obviously there's gonna be a higher chance of her to marry outside. And another thing is that guys shoot their shot. Women don't shoot their shot. So what that means is if there's more white people shooting their shot, right? Like let's say there's thousands compared to like hundreds of Asian guys. And just statistically, if there's way more shooting their shot, then what's gonna end up happening? She has way more choices. But on the flip side, this is where I feel like a lot of Asian guys don't know, is that you're a rarity. Like, because we're so low, like the population is so low, right? There's gonna be like 10 Brads and Chads. And I guarantee you're gonna stand out in a significant way. If you're a little bit different, they're gonna be curious, like, I never had Asian before. I mean, don't you feel that way? Imagine if all you dated was Chinese girl, and then you're like, I never had Latin spice before. I want to try Latin spice. I want to see what their culture's like. I want to see how they dance. I want to see how they play. You know, I want to see how they romance. And I get curious. And I'll tell you this, for my personal experience, I think like what I've publicly shown is for, if you guys been following me, I've mostly, it appears as though I'm only date white girls, which is a funny like assumption, right? Because it's only what I put up there publicly. But I would say 95+% of the women that I've dated, been in long-term relationships throughout my life, has been Asian. I've had a lot of beautiful experiences within my community. And so after a while though, I think you do get curious because you're living in America and there's a beautiful woman in every goddamn ethnic group. You're fucking lying to me if you're telling me you were never curious of dating outside. And if you were, then something's wrong with you because you live a limited, life. And I get it. Some people, they just want to eat oatmeal every day. That's fine. That's them. But me, I like to explore the world. And I'm glad that I did because I realized that not everybody loves and expresses the same way. And you can learn so much from different cultures that doesn't have the same type of philosophy, mentality, and expressions that you grew up doing. And yeah, there's gonna be like arguments and disagreements only because there's cultural friction, It's called culture shock for a reason. But then you can learn a lot from it. And I believe that interracial relationships is actually the key to help with racist things ending. The more mixed babies you have, the more people who love one another, the more chances of conversations that we have, because two families of different races can get together and talk, and they're forced to talk. Why? I mean, that's how like nations and shit kept together, because they would marry off their sons and daughters, and then they would have to have alliances. And I get it too. Some people, they'll argue like their love isn't authentic because it's surface. Oh, they only wanted to date a white guy because they have a white fetish, or they only wanted that Asian girl because of Asian fetish or whatever, right? Don't even act like you don't choose and fetishize people. We all do. We all have a fetish. Like some of us love legs, some of us love ass, some of us love titties. Like, why you gonna act like that doesn't exist? You're fucking full of shit if you don't like a pretty face. But also on the flip side, I think preferences are fine, right? We all have preferences. But having disgust of a certain ethnic group, I don't date this particular race because they're disgusting. Like that's just flat out racism. That shit is fucking weird and you need to stop that. Even having an ethnic preference, I would say is fine. Like, oh, you like Latins because whatever, like you find them the most attractive. But I still think it's a horrible thing to look at a group and talk negative about them. So what I want to stress to everybody listening is whatever these issues are, let's say there are women out there that don't date, their own kind. God, it sounds like some KKK talk. Let's not let a few bitter people represent the thoughts of the majority, because it's never true. Like most Asian women don't think this way. Most Asian women are in the comments here arguing the fact that I love my Asian guys. And statistically, it shows that. most Asian marriages are within the same community. And not only within the same community, it's within the same ethnic group, like Chinese with Chinese, Korean with Korean. And to me, that's fascinating, right? Like, even generationally, like out here in Hawaii, generationally, there's Japanese Americans that are still marrying Japanese Americans. And for me, most Asian women that I've run into, like 99%, are sensible human beings. And if you truly believe that they're out here like only dating white guys and they hate being Asian or whatever, I don't know what kind of people you're running into. And I actually think it's just weird people that get highlighted on social media. I don't think that's the majority, and I really don't think that's how they think. But also, let's talk about Asian girls that say, oh, I don't date Asian guys because, you know, he's like a brother. Or like Asian men are like brothers, family. It's kind of weird. It feels incestual, right? Now, I always thought that was weird, but then I kind of understood it because I actually never dated a Japanese girl. I dated Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, all kinds of Asian ethnic groups except Japanese. And I think what happened was, one, my access, right? I didn't know many Japanese girls. And the ones that I grew up with were either my relatives or the small church community that I belonged to. And so, like, you know, the girls that I felt attracted to were the girls I was going to school with, which I grew up with mostly Mexican and black. And I do remember my first time visiting Japan. I was like 14 years old. Because I was not around that many Japanese folks, it just felt like everybody there was a relative. It felt like family, and it felt comfortable because I've never seen so many Japanese people at once. And I did hear the same thing coming from a white girl who liked dating Asian guys. She did say like, oh yeah, a lot of white guys, they remind me of my brother. So maybe there's something there, right? Maybe there's something about like growing up and being like the only white kid in an all Asian neighborhood, or being the only black kid in an all Latin neighborhood. And then the people that you become attracted to in high school are the popular kids. And if it's like 80% Latin American, then all the popular kids are probably gonna be, you know, Latin American. So then you wanna date them, right? And I'm not gonna deny the fact that a lot of internalized racism comes from, you know, some type of trauma that they experience through family members or whatever. And then they associated ethnicity with trauma. A good example is there's this Latin girl I was talking to, and she grew up in a abusive relationship from her father. He's extremely violent. He would beat her up. And when she hears guys speak Spanish with an angry tone, it triggered her. And it made her feel turned off, disgusted, and all that because of her memory with her father. She noticed that when she learned how to speak Korean, and then she went to Korea, and she heard aggressive Korean guys, you know, getting into arguments or even lecturing her or whatever, right? There was no past trauma tied to that language, so it didn't affect her in the same way. So I think that there is some merit to like some type of like personal trauma that people go through, and then they haven't really dealt with their trauma, and then they go throughout life targeting that ethnic group as like, it's your fault, you're hurtful, you're dangerous. And then they might feel safer with another group that they don't have any triggers with. And now I'm not saying this to justify it, right? I'm just trying to understand how people come up with these thoughts and to better understand why they hate so much, or why they're so scared, or why they have this perception. I also think it's really stupid to categorize and generalize that every single person who's dating interracially is either tied to some trauma or some stupid fetish. It really shows that people with this mentality have a very low understanding of humans and attraction in general. I believe that there's always an exception because you can affect the experience that you have with the individual one-on-one that you're interacting with. So even if things are generally true, right? Like let's say, you know, there are a lot of Asian women that date white guys. Let's say that's statistically true, right? But everyone that understands stats knows that correlation is not causation. We don't know the exact motives and reasons. We can only guess because every individual is motivated by a different decision. We don't really know until we ask every single person why, and people might not be able to like articulate why. They might just be like, hey, I'm in a white neighborhood, I don't got any options, okay? Or some people be like, you know, I'm a Korean adoptee. I don't even know how to speak Korean. I don't have any connection to that. I just by skin I'm Korean, like, but I don't know anything about it. So I'm just gonna date the guys that I went to high school with. We really don't know any of these motives and why they came to this conclusion. We can only make a wild guess. I think the most powerful thing we can do, and if you want to influence these situations, is you put yourself out there and interact with people, and just you being a charismatic, fun individual will get them to have these different perceptions about Asian men. So for example, super awesome comedian Theo Von, right? He really didn't have any Asian friends, and he had no experience of personally interacting with Asian Americans. And I think this is the issue with America, right? Like, we all live in these bubbles, we share the same country, but the interactions are transactional. You might run into a white person working at Target or whatever, but if you live in a super bubble community where 90% of the people you hang with and live with is one ethnicity, then you're gonna have a lot of assumptions and maybe even fears about your neighbor. So Theo told me that he never really had a chance because where he grew up in, I think, Louisiana or whatever, he didn't have that opportunity because there's just no Asians out there. It wasn't until he came to California and he ran into us. When he was filming with us on JK News, he said that he was hella intimidated because, first off, it wasn't because we were Asian, but because we were YouTubers. And he thought that we would be politically correct, and, you know, he's a comedian and we might be too woke. And so he felt super uncomfortable. But then as soon as the cameras went, you guys know, we don't give a fuck. We just go, we talk. And he felt so comfortable around us because he was shocked how further we went compared to his Hollywood buddies that were white, because you know, they have to self-censor a lot of shit. But see how it takes actual human interaction. Those things are way more impactful than what someone believes previously. For example, a girl might have a previous idea about Asian men, but let's say you go on a date with her and you're just so fucking charming and fun and exciting, and she's like, you know what, you really changed my thoughts and my hesitations or whatever it was, because you're just so fucking cool. And a lot of the times this happens because people have more impact over the individual through the interaction than what media has to say or whatever. That stuff has very, very little influence. I think everyday human interactions, it's more emotional. You know, you have more time with people, and that is definitely gonna influence their perception of you than a fucking stupid picture or advertisement or what some girl says in a sentence that goes viral. And this is how I put myself forward. Who gives a damn what they believe? Even if they're out there talking shit, I really don't care, because I believe that if you're the best version of yourself, you become magnetic, you're strong, you're confident, you're lovable, you're really fun to be with, that transcends beyond anything, race, gender, whatever. People just love who you are. They want to hang out more with you. Honest to God truth, okay? Guy or girl, do you think being a negative, cynical complainer who's bitter is attractive? No. You go on a date and you fucking complain for 30 minutes about the world and the other gender and why, you know, this statistic is why women don't like Asian guys or whatever the fuck. That's not attractive at all. I mean, in general, I don't even want friends like that. So there's two types of people, right? Like, you either focus on the problems and dread on problems and let those overwhelm you, or you could be a part of the solution and go, yeah, there are these problems, but guess what? I'm gonna be the person who changes that perception. For all you Asian guys out there that are complaining about not enough sexy Asians in media, why don't you become the sexy Asian in media? For all of you guys out there who are saying like, yeah, you know, Asian girls don't wanna date like Asian guys or whatever, if that is true in your mind, right? Why are you so helpless? First and foremost, it's not a good trait to have for men in general. You're guaranteeing that failure. And I'm not trying to kick you when you're down. If you really believe this, right, wouldn't the first step be to put yourself out there and go, no, I'm a fucking dope person. Like, I have a great personality and you're missing out and you just haven't met me yet. Once you meet me, we have a good time. I'll change that perception that you have about whatever negative idea you had. When it feels like you're trying your hardest and it feels like nobody out there is ever going to love you, that bitterness will turn into everyone's taking my options. These are my girls. These are supposed to be my girls that I talk to, but you know, they're out here, black guys, white guys. Everybody's taking my girls. That's not the truth. They were not your girls to begin with. Like, they're not obligated to like you. This is the difference between men and women. We have to go out there and we have to talk to a lot of them. We have a lot of competition. And guess what? It should be this way because you want the girl that you're gonna win. You don't want them to be easy. You want them to filter out through all these guys that are weak, right? Are you just sitting there thinking of all the reasons why you can't do something instead of thinking of all the reasons of how to do something? Because at the end of the day, tell me when's the last time bitterness made someone successful in life? Like, that to me is guaranteed failure. Thinking this way, you're not gonna get anywhere in life. If you go down that path, it's guaranteed loneliness, and you can think of all the reasons why the world makes it difficult for you. But I'm telling you right now, if you think of solutions and if you can see why you had advantages, inch by inch, you start developing that power and that confidence in understanding that you do have a lot of awesome abilities, capabilities, and everybody in this world deserves a partner that they can love, that they can build a family with. It first has to start off with the belief that you can do this and you're capable of doing this. So I'm not even gonna deny that odds are stacked against you. It's hard, right? There's a lot of rich guys out there. There's a lot of handsome guys out there. You don't know where you stand in this world. I'll guarantee you this. If you courageously challenge yourself and you don't look at all the reasons why things suck for you, but you try to find solutions on how to get out of why things suck, the world will reward you. Women will find that courageous and say, this guy is fucking cool. I want to get to know this person. People are inspired by those who challenge themselves and overcome odds. I would try and look at all the situations where it is successful, where it is defying gravity, and then I would copy that model. I wouldn't look at all the things as to why it's unsuccessful unless I'm trying to figure a solution as to why. And the solution at the end of the day should be for you going out there and having a fulfilling relationship. Because at the end of the day, none of this stuff matters if you're just gonna be lonely and bitter. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about this. If I'm bullshit, tear me apart. Let me know in the comments below. There might be things that I've missed, and I know it's just a rant here. There might be some scholars out there too that spend a lifetime studying this stuff. I'm really interested in what you have to say about it all. Till next time, peace.